Well, before I got this job in 1997, I worked, in between the time I taught at O'Hara, I worked in 13 different districts as a per diem sub, and I stole the idea from a teacher at Radnor who had it painted on the wall, and I thought, if I ever get to this point, I'm going to do that for these children. Yeah, well, basically, for every child who scored extremely qualified, they got a 5 on the AP test, there's an hour of work that goes into it. It takes me about 45 minutes to make the stencils. Mrs. Falona gave me her stencils. And the first year, in 2009, Mrs. Falona actually built the stencils for me. And if you look at the picture, they're actually the best ones. And then I thought she wanted to keep me away from the X-Acto knife. She was afraid I would lose a digit. And I told her that I could handle this. And it takes about 45 minutes, ballpark, to make a stencil. And then, like 15 minutes to actually paint, use the stencil brush to paint the names on the wall. So I think, from my estimate, it's about an hour per child, and there were over 100 kids' names on the wall. I like to think that, as a reminder of, it was a legacy of the people that had been successful in this room before that, and I think that, some children definitely aspired to have their names painted up there, but I can't answer for each individual. Well, I can smile about it now, but it wasn't something I would laugh about. I got an email that I might want to come up here when I was 90 miles away down the shore, that the wall was scheduled to be, the room was going to be painted. I'm like, well, this has to be a misunderstanding. You're going to paint over those names that, in recognition of all this work. I mean, it's, I just work here. It's not an intrusion on my space. It's an intrusion on the space, the recognition of the work of these children. So I replied to the email, and there was no response. And then one of the children emailed me a couple weeks later and said, it happened. And I was angry. Well, then we came back in at the end of August, and I thought, okay, well, whatever's done is done, so we'll just start over again. So that was the group, if you look up here, of 2017 with Michael Bonaquisti, and those walls, those names went to the spot, the original spot from 2009. But then when I came in the next day, there was paint, sloppy first coat over that. So the first names in 2009, in September of 2009, is that right? Yeah, September 2009, were above the basketball, and then we worked clockwise around the room till we were had half of that back wall covered, so we were actually running out of space. But we would have made it work for the limited lifespan of the building. I was just so angry with the actions of this individual zero to disrespect the accomplishments of these children, and I was basically sulking for the first month of school. And when we got to back to school night, we had a parent in here of a child who had been in the wall, and their other child was a student, and they offered to see what they could do. And I was originally kind of dismissive of the idea, but then they produced this product, which was, it was a nice. I appreciate their efforts, and it's a nice recognition. It's not what it was, but it is nice for these, for people to understand the accomplishments of the kids that went before them.